Good morning, friends. We'll start basic study guide, joining and fastening. An assembly that has been created by joining two or more parts by one or more welds is called weldment. Pressure welding can be accomplished with pressure alone, but what else usually added? Heat. In pressure bonding, heat is the effect of increasing malleability. Soldering, brazing, and brass welding are use a process where only the filler metal is actually melted. A general definition of welding describes the joining of two surfaces in a permanent union established by atom-to-atom bonds. Proper brazing depends upon numerous factors being controlled of the following, which is not appropriate. Complete melting of the step metal and diffusion of the brass filler metal into the base metal. Melting of the step metal means the parent metal, no melting, nothing. Parent metal never melt in brazing. Of the following, which is not a requirement for fusion bonding? Pressure. For fusion bonding, melting, atomic closeness, atomic cleanliness, those are required. Pressure is not required, may or may not. The process of diffusion welding, often called diffusion bonding. Diffusion welding, the base metal is joined by putting it under pressure at temperature below the melting point. Metallurgical effect in a weld, such as a grain size variation and shrinkage, are similar to those that occur in casting. What type of weld joint is depicted in figure 6, corner joint? The uneven shrinkage and brittle structure that occur due to the rapid cooling of weld can often be reduced by preheating the weldment prior to welding. Welds and weldments have been known to develop excessive residual stress. What type of weld joint preparation is shown in figure 6? V-groove. One-sided V-groove, that's all. The principal purpose of preheat treatment and post-heat treatment in weld is neutralize residual stresses and geometric distortion. In figure 7, which sketch contains an incorrect welding symbol with respect to weld joints shown? That is A, because that is, if you see arrow side is far side for AWS. Means arrow top side. When you say top side, that is far side. So that is not depicted here. The bottom side is near side. In the welding, the most obvious discontinuities are those associated with structural anomalies in the weld itself. Condition not considered welding process discontinuities are corrosion of the structural members. So corrosion is not a welding discontinuity. The burn-off rate of amount of sputtering during the arc welding process can often be controlled by selecting a proper electrode polarity. Due to high temperature and rapid rate of cooling, the filler material used in fusion welds contains alloys that will help compensate for properties lost during welding process. Thermal conductivity of a metal is an important factor to consider in making quality weldments because some metals such as stainless steel have low conductivity, which result in weld discontinuities caused by localized overheating. In arc welding, the electric arc is usually sustained between an electrode and the workpiece. Which of the following welding process uses a non-consumable electrode with an arc maintained in an atmosphere of inert gas, gas tungsten arc welding? Which of the following gases are most frequently used as shielding to provide an inert atmosphere in the vicinity of weld? Argon, helium, carbon dioxide. Shielding in the submerged arc welding process is provided by granular flux that completely surrounds the arc. Shielded metal arc welding. The submerged arc welding. So the welding process that is most frequently carried out in a vacuum chamber is electron beam welding. If the B group weld shown in figure 9 was made in multiple passes and not clamped or restrained, typical wrapping would take place in which direction? Edges A and B. Would be raised due to contraction to the weld metal. So you need to clamp. The welding process capable of very high intensity and rate of heat transfer is plasma arc welding. The welding process in which the arc is extinguished after melting a slag cover and in which the base metal and copper slides form a sort of moving mold is called electroslag welding. Which welding process is depicted in figure 8? Resistance spot welding. Cracks in the weld metal is primarily which three types? Longitudinal, transverse, and crater cracks. A slag inclusion can result from which of the following? Insufficient cleaning of successive passes in a multiple weldment. Undercut on a weld pass is usually caused by poor operator technique. When steel has been quench hardened and then reheated to some point below the lower transformation temperature for the purpose of reducing brittleness is called tempering. Crater cracks may take the form of single crack or star-shaped crack and will usually be found anywhere along the weld where welding was stopped and restarted. Weldments subjected to restraint during the welding on develop high residual stresses. Unrestrained weldment can develop geometric distortion. Material removal process. In describing machinability, three different measurements are generally considered in a relative, if not quantitative basis. These are surface finish of the material achievable, power consumption required to remove a given volume of material, and expected tool life. The machines designed to hold a cutting tool and a workpiece and establish a suitable set of motions between them to remove material from the workpiece is called machine tools. After welding, many steel weldments are heat treated to obtain more uniform properties between the weld and base metal and to relieve stress. This heat treatment method is often following welding, normalizing. A cutting operation that has the ability to cut through thicknesses up to zero point 0.9 meter of steel, that is 3 feet of steel, and is commonly used to remove surface discontinuities on casting, and forging by scarfing is called oxyacetylene cutting. The process used for shaping metal by chemical dissolution only with selective removal accomplished by masking areas where metal cannot be removed is called chemical milling. The process illustrated in figure 11 is called ultrasonic machining. There is a magnetic strictive transducer, high frequency amplifier support. So this is ultrasonic machining. The acronym EDM refers to electro discharge machining. Figure 10 shows electrochemical milling by tool feed, DC power supply, pump. When used with respect to machine tools, the acronym NC means numerical control. Which of the following can result in economical setup and reduce machine time with an increase in repeatability and accuracy for a variety of machining operation? The use of NDT to evaluate finished product. Sorry, these are no. Which of the following can result in economical setup and reduced machine time with the increase in repeatability and accuracy of vicinity of machining operation? The use of numerical control system. So numerical control system applied to conventional type of machining operation gives reliability and accuracy. Surface treatment and coating. Which of the following statement is not true concerning surface finishing? Surface finishing is always followed by further process. No, not true. A process that is the reverse of electrochemical machining and that involves the deposition of metal and other metals and non-metals is called electroplating. Metals commonly applied to other metals by electroplating are nickel, chromium, and cadmium. Carburizing and flame hardening are examples of case hardening process. All of the following statement is concerning electrostatic spraying are true except the part being sprayed require high current to attract the spray media. No. Electrostatic means one is positive and one is negative. So just by that. Which of the following non-destructive tests would provide the best result of measuring the case depth on a case hardened part? Electromagnetic testing. Some materials such as aluminum are corrosion resistant by virtue of immediate oxidation of newly exposed surface. The best and most economical cleaners used for removal of oils and greases are petroleum solvents. A process that converts the base metal surface to an oxidized barrier layer, a very small porous cell, is called anodizing. Coating are often applied to protect a material. Their thickness can frequently be determined non-destructively by electromagnetic testing. ET. The anodized surface on aluminum can produce high background during a penetrant test. A corrosion protection material commonly applied to steel by hot dipping and galvanizing is zinc. Which of the following is not a function of NDT, determining and remaining life of structure? An important basis of success of non-destructive testing design procedure is the need to ensure that unexpected discontinuities, some critical size, are not present when the component enters service. Introduction to non-destructive testing. Which of the following statement best differentiate a defect from a discontinuity? Discontinuities can propagate and become defects. If properly used, NDT can assist in determining whether a test specimen is functioning as designed by providing an accurate evaluation of number of and type of discontinuities that exist in a material. Even at early stage of product planning, NDT should be considered because the design of parts should permit easy access to critical access for the later inspection. Non-destructive testing NDT is often differentiated from other measurement of inspection techniques in that NDT involves indirect test related to some other quality and characteristics of the material. A fatigue failure can often be prevented by using detect surface discontinuities that could be stress risers. Non-destructive testing method. In visual testing, which of the following measurement tools used to the principle of light wave interference to check surface flatness? Optical flat. A technique for inspection manufactured products that utilize the selection criteria percentage and parts of inspection is called sampling. Devices that show magnified, reflected, and profile images of the workpiece on a frosted glass screen are called optical comparators. Implied in sampling inspection is willingness to sometimes accept defective products. An NDT method that has the ability to measure changes in electrical conductivity caused by effects of heat treatment is electromagnetic testing. So willingness to sometimes accept defect means there are 1,000 products, so you can sample only. So your willingness to sometimes accept some percentage of defective products, but not. So there is a minimum. So there is minimum acceptance level. That much if you are getting in 100 or 200, then you can accept the whole lot. Otherwise, you just reject. That is how the sampling inspections. A vernier-like measurement in a Bayesian test permits verification of hyperacuity. Process control based on the means of range of measurement taken in periodic samples require the measurement to be taken of variable parameters. By the process control based on means of ranges of measurement taken on periodic samples. The measurement to taken in variable or parameters. That's all. Factors of safety are often in the range of 2 to 4. These factors could be reduced with assurance from NDT techniques that the material was free of discontinuities. May not try. Monitoring temperature for industrial process control is an example of parameter-based measurement. Metal corrosion that is isolated when the metal is under load is called stress corrosion. On the probability detection POD curve shown in figure below, the y-axis is set for a 90 degrees probability level. Detectable discontinuities will be detected. NDT and engineering. The statement that a particular experiment produces a 0.9 probability detection with a 95% confidence level means that there is a 5% probability that probability of detection is overstated. Okay friends, I'll stop.